So for those of you who are golfing enthusiasts, you'll definitely want to turn up the volume for my next guest, David Bayliff. Now, David uses his skills as a physical therapist to get his patients back to doing the sports they love. He sees everything ranging from runners, geeks like myself, and hikers. And the best part of it is his treatments take place in the comfort of his patients' homes, and even on the tennis courts or the golf course. He also provides a personal training program for his patients so that once they are discharged from traditional physical therapy, they have a bridge to getting their top fitness level under the supervision of a trained clinician. Here's David.
Hey folks, Kosi Belloso, physical therapist, amputee specialist, and I am your host for Restoring Your Everyday. So this month we've been learning about how to get back in the game, literally. So hopefully by now you've seen my interview with the lovely Robin Burton from OPATH, and now I've decided to bring another player into the mix. So here is my buddy, David Bayliff, and we are actually here at a national PT conference. So I love doing this conference every year because I get to hook up with some of my really great buddies here like David. So David has been a physical therapist now for
25 years.
25 years. That's longer than I've been alive. Can I still can I pull that off? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Still pull that
you
off?
can
okay,
pull
I can
that
still
off.
say that.
Believe me.
All right. So David, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, because this is such a joy and honor to be here. So thank you for inviting me. So, I'm originally from North Carolina, but I live in Arizona now, and I've always practiced in Arizona. And for the past 6 years, I've had my own practice where I'm mobile, and so I go work with my clients wherever they need to be. It might be at their home, it might be at the golf course, it might be at the tennis courts, but I get to enjoy more what I do, because sometimes I get to be outside or I get to be on their patios, but I really get to practice with people what's important to them in their real environment.
Excellent. So this month on Restore Your Everyday, we've been talking about the everyday obstacle of now what? What do you do after you learn to walk with your prosthesis? So when we spoke with Robin from OPATH, she gave some really great information on clinics available around the US that offer a wide variety of sports and classes to take to restart and kickstart that fitness routine again. But what happens if you don't have an OPATH class in your area? So David, you work really closely with folks in the golf and tennis circuits. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get involved with that?
Well, honestly, it came from my passion, my childhood passion, where my whole life I've been a tennis player. I practically grew up on a tennis court, and I found a way to be able to blend my love of the game of tennis with what brings me money, which is being a physical therapist.
There you go.
And in Arizona, much like in Florida, we also have a lot of people that play golf. And the people who play golf are very passionate about their golf, and they will do whatever to take one stroke off of their handicap. And golf involves a lot of rotation, just like tennis. So in terms of being able to kind of transition, helping one athlete or the other, it was kind of a simple, smooth transition. But again, there's so many people who enjoy the game of golf. It was very easy to make that transition. But that's how I got into it, from my own personal involvement in being a lifelong tennis player.
Okay, so when someone is coming back from a traumatic injury, such as amputation, and they want to get back into a fitness routine or sport, what are some of the things that they need to take into consideration?
Yeah, great question. And I think whether they're going to sport or just wanting to function in life, the principles are the same. And what's very important, again, as you mentioned, what if they're wanting to get back into it? If they want to get back into it, chances are that means they haven't been in it, which means the body has probably gotten stiff. Some key areas have gotten weak, so we need to gain some mobility. I like to call it some bendability, get bendy. We also need to have some stability or some strength, and if we don't work on those things, we may see other injuries pop up that could have been avoided by simply doing a couple of things.
Okay, so and this, like you mentioned already, this isn't just applicable to sports and fitness routine, this is applicable just to getting back into life.
Absolutely, because as we find, as someone, you may not think of being balanced as actually having a lot of mobility, but actually the better that the body can react, the better stable or balanced you're going to be.
Okay, so folks, we are going to head over and we're going to bring in one of our patient models to show us a couple of exercises that are going to help you start reestablishing and putting the polish on your gait pattern with some balance and bendiness,
yeah.
Getting more mobility back
That's
into
right.
you so that you can hopefully start getting back to your fitness routine. David, thank you so much for this information. I can't wait to see what exercises that you come up with now. But before we go, where can people find you if they have questions regarding golf or tennis?
Yeah, absolutely. The easiest way is for social media is just on Facebook, David Bayliff, plain and simple. I occasionally do post on Instagram, although not as much as I want to be, but that's Bayliff Integrated Wellness. But on Facebook, David Bayliff is probably the best way.
All right, folks, you heard it from him. Any burning questions about golf and tennis, find him on Facebook or on Instagram. Stick around for the exercises that are coming up. Bye. Hi guys, Cosi Villoso here, host for Restore Your Everyday. We are here with Captain David Bayliff and Jeff Whelan to show us something about your personal roadmap on getting back into the game. So earlier I spoke with David about the importance of improving your balance, but before getting to balance, making sure you have good mobility if you're trying to return to fitness or a sport. So David here is going to show Jeff a couple of these exercises on improving mobility, specifically with
trunk and hip mobility. We want to become salsa dancers in order to be good at trying to get back out on the playground. It's very important. But also, as Cosi may have mentioned, is that the importance of having mobility isn't just for playing sports, but as you have that mobility, it helps you so much with your balance during simple walking.
Absolutely, guys. And if there's one takeaway I want you to have from these exercises is it's not just for going back to sports. It's putting that final polish with trunk rotation and pelvic rotation on your gait pattern, making it as efficient and as comfortable as possible. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let them do the work right now.
Absolutely. Hey, so Jeff, thank you so much. So Jeff here, he was telling us before we started recording that it's been about 1.5 years since he's played golf. So if he's going to think about going back to golf, he's probably stiffened up a little bit. So we need to make sure that he's a little bendy so that he can get out there and play. And one reason why that's very important for you, Jeff, is not just so that you can hit the golf ball well, but the more bendy that you are, we're going to avoid some of those other injuries that you told us about, like your shoulder, which is why it's very important to have some trunk mobility, some hip mobility. So the first exercise we're going to go over today is we're going to address the hips. Okay. And what I want to ask you to do is just cross your hands over your shoulders. Okay. And there's a reason I want to have you like this. Number one is you say you want to be on the golf course. So this kind of simulates to the body the position of being in your dress position, even though you're holding a golf club, but it kind of gives you that feel. Okay. Also, you can use your hands to tell your body to not move up here, because we're going to see Jeff, I'm guessing that he's going to have a hard time with this because he hasn't moved in 1.5 years. But he might surprise me.
It's like, give him some credit.
This cat's pretty good, so he might surprise me. So I'm hoping he surprises me. So what we're going to do is we're going to stay real quiet here in the upper body, Jeff. Down here at the hips, as I mentioned earlier about some salsa dancing, we're going to see if we can get the hips to wiggle back and forth. And as we do this, it's not a race, okay? We're going to do it nice and easy. So I was right. He's struggling, but that's good. Now, if we are struggling, here's how we can simplify it. His shoulders want to move. Okay, so now if he has somebody with him, well, we can. Hey,
that's merengue. That's not salsa. Sorry, no.
But if I'm with him, or if someone is with Jeff, I can give him some feedback here and hold him so that he can't move. So he has to force some movement down here. Now, if you're struggling with it, just make it a smaller motion, or also break it down to where you just try to turn to the right and come back to center. Turn to the right, come back to center. And then turn to the left, come back to center if you're having a hard time going left and right. But as you can see, Jeff has a hard time with it right now, but a lot of people do. Even people who aren't amputees have a hard time with this exercise.
I'm having a hard time.
Right, but that's why this is very important, because as he gets more bendy, gets that mobility, he's actually going to play better golf when he returns. He's not going to injure himself, but also because you're mobile, because you're better mobile, you're actually going to walk better and have better balance. An element of balance is actually being mobile. So this is going to help you with walking.
Okay, so just to do a recap on this particular exercise, guys, you stand with your feet nice and even in the square up position, arms crossed over your shoulders to help stabilize those shoulders, and moving the pelvis to the right. I'm having trouble. I'm Cuban. I should be able to do this. I'm having trouble with this one.
Yeah.
All right. By the way, your wife is cheering in the background because you're taking her dancing after this. She's behind the camera right now cheering right now. So, all right. Well, that's a great exercise to start with the pelvic mobility. What's a good exercise for the trunk mobility, trunk rotation?
So now let's flip it. Let's work on the trunk mobility, which right now Jeff wants to have trunk mobility. He's pretty good at that. So, but his challenge is can he have that movement up here, and can he keep these guys quiet down here? I'm guessing that he probably can. Now with the trunk mobility, what we don't have with us right now is a weight. So let's pretend we have a weight in hand. So we're going to actually get the trunk to twist, to rotate. We're going to add some weight on one side so that we're also bringing in an element of strength or stability. And in order to do that, the reason why we're going to do that is we're going to actually challenge the lower half of the body to be stable. We're going to challenge these outside hip muscles to be stable, to work, which is very important with walking, very important with golf and tennis. Okay, so we're going to ask these guys to work while this up here is rotating with some resistance. So Jeff, what I'm going to have you do is let's pretend we have a weight in one hand. I don't care which one. And what we're going to do is we're going to reach across and we're going to let our shoulders turn. Let our shoulders turn in and go with it. Perfect. And then as you come back, we're going to just bring that arm back. If you want to, you can let the other arm guide you, help to get that motion. So we're going to reach across, go like this, and come back. Excellent. So it's almost like, if you remember, I know you remember the old Rock'em Sock'em games, you know? Okay, so okay, Rock'em Sock'em, that's super. So we're going to take that, but we're going to just exaggerate a little bit. So we're going to really reach and come back. And the reason that we're going to have a weight in one hand is that if the weight is in this hand here, then this half of the body has to work a little bit harder. So in other words, we're going to create imbalance in the body to help create balance. Okay. And as you get comfortable with that motion, then we start to pick up the pace a little bit. Okay. All right. And as you pick up the pace, you're going to feel those muscles work differently as you pick up the pace, especially when you add a resistance. You're going to feel the body working differently than you are going nice and slow. When you're going nice and slow, you're just going to feel your arm working a lot. But as you pick up the pace, then you're going to start to feel the rotation. You're going to start to feel the trunk muscles here.
See, it works good when this doesn't move.
That's right.
You gotta work on both sides of it. So guys, what I really love about these exercises, this is something a beginner returning to fitness can do, but also some of the more advanced athletes. So as David mentioned with this exercise, when you're first starting out, you're going without weight, and then as you continue to improve, you can add a weight to one side and increase the speed to increase the challenge with this.
Right. And I like to add, Coach, is also that obviously, or it may not be obvious, but you would switch the weight into the other arm once you start adding weight so that you work each side equally. But again, we're using a weight in one side to create imbalance in order to create balance.
Okay, so folks, there you had it from our golf and tennis expert, Jeff.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Folks, I want you to go back and I want you to try these exercises. Let us know what you think. And stick around for next month's Restore Your Everyday.